Senator Heinrich, to be followed by Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to thank Senator Begich for the segue to the issue of putting satellites into orbit. We do a lot of work in New Mexico for the rest of the country. But even our private sector entities oftentimes work hand in glove with the public sector, with the Department of Energy, with the Department of Defense. And we literally, at Spaceport America in New Mexico, just had a launch canceled. That's a window that, I mean, we have now missed. If you take a moment and look at what this shutdown means for my state, and I know Dr. Leshner is intimately aware of this because of how much science work we do, but we have 32,000 federal workers out of 2 million residents. Those are just the federal workers that are directly federal workers. We have thousands more at Sandia National Laboratories as contractors. We have thousands more at Los Alamos National Laboratories as contractors. We have 2,000 subcontractors alone at Los Alamos. One retailer said in the paper recently in Los Alamos, anytime the lab sneezes, we catch a cold. That's true in Albuquerque for Sandia National Labs. And that doesn't even begin to touch on the fact that we have Kirtland Air Force Base, Holloman Air Force Base, Cannon Air Force Base, White Sands Missile Range, NASA, Carlsbad Caverns National Park, dozens of parks and monuments, 5 national forests that are unstaffed in the middle of hunting season, millions upon millions of Bureau of Land Management acres that currently can't process energy leases, also unstaffed in the middle of hunting season. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask unanimous consent to include an article I have called New Mexico Amid Shutdown, Economist Warns of Another Recession, and just make the point that I think Dr. Leshner brought up, that our labs are about to shut down, and if they do shut down, even if the rest of the country doesn't slip into a recession, every day that those labs are closed, we get closer to recession in the state of New Mexico.
It will be included.
I was surprised to hear from our colleague that the shutdown is about the debt. And certainly, if we can't get the debt ceiling increased, who knows what's going to happen to our interest rates. And I can guarantee you the only outcome of that will be that we have more debt and higher deficits because of that kind of irresponsible behavior. But as our colleague from Florida brought up, last week it was about Obamacare. It would be easier to negotiate an outcome here if we knew what we were negotiating about. And I think we've got to realize how much damage we are doing to ourselves. And I have one question, it'll be for Dr. Leshner, and I would ask him to step back in time to when he was 25, when he first got that grant, and just give us a sense for somebody who is getting their PhD for the first time, who spent years investing at a university, who's looking out at the rest of their professional career. What kind of a message are we sending to scientists in universities across this country today about whether or not to go to work at the National Radio Observatory, whether or not to go to work at the Department of Energy labs, at NNSA, at National Institutes of Health, or at NASA?
You know, science is a continuous incremental process that has to go on in a continuous way over time. And for a young person to think that their career will be stop, start, will make it extremely difficult to see real accomplishment over time, because science has to be continuous. We have to be continually working on whatever the problem is, or we lose it. And we certainly, someone made the point, are at risk of losing it to our competitors. Science has gotten more and more global. It's going on all over the world. We collaborate all over the world, but we also, at the same time, have national interest, and we have to maintain that national standing as well.
If you're simply somebody who right now can't acquire data on long-term research because of the shutdown, that little piece of this, what impact is that going to have on our science over the coming years?
It happens in two ways. One is so there's an interruption and there's a delay. On the other hand, many of those time series studies that have been done are totally dependent on continuity. So if you have a break, you might as well not have done the earlier part because it's only going to tell you the result as a function of being a continuous process. So although a stall looks like a hiatus, it isn't really a hiatus. Frequently, it means, okay, throw away everything you did before because you won't have that continuous series of measurements.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this hearing.